Hello everybody. Today I'm going to talk to you about 6 attorneys that were caught having sex and bringing contraband to inmates. If you like this video, please subscribe. Yes, these are things that we have to watch for, especially in the county jails. Now, you do have attorneys coming out to the prisons also, and this goes for the prisons as well, but the majority of attorney-client visitation is for the jails. Prior to being sentenced, prior to going to trial for their plea or bond or whatever, the attorneys constantly are going to the jails to visit with clients. And unfortunately, some of them do more than just an oral exam for an interview, no pun intended. They actually have sex and bring in contraband for inmates. Now, I'm going to say right off the bat, just like with, your bad apples in the correctional officer uniform, this is not the majority of attorneys. There are a lot of decent attorneys out there, but unfortunately, they have bad apples, and we have to watch for them in our job as correctional officers. And sometimes it's hard to do. Let me go through these 6 attorneys. I'll put their pictures up as we go. The first one is attorney Andrew Spark. He's 54 years old. He's a Tampa, Florida attorney, and he was recently caught at the Pinellas County Jail having sex with a 28-year-old inmate. Now, he was having sex with her at least 6 times after the investigation was completed. It was revealed that he had sex with her approximately 6 times when he went in to get her oral statement. He was also bringing some contraband in. When we have attorney-client visits, as they call it, I call it attorney-inmate booth, we need to be able to see what's going on. But unfortunately, now, I've checked several places also besides where I work. Some of these jails don't have cameras, so you have no camera in there to see what's going on, and that's probably part of the attorney-client privilege rule. But why can't you have a camera with no sound so we can at least see what's going on? Well, the attorney-client privilege rule may argue that you can't hear what we're saying, but the camera can pick up documents, handing the client this tablet, and maybe the camera picks up things on the tablet, and it's not to be seen by anybody but the attorney and the client. So it's kind of a tough spot to be in. You also have some jails that have the windows covered for one reason or another. I know that the jail I just retired from had covered some of the windows in the attorney booth because of juveniles. They house juveniles in one section, and everything has to be protected and kept away from the juveniles, and they didn't want them to see in and others to see out during movement of juveniles. So, it's a tough situation, but we're going to have to do something because these cases are popping up more and more every year. I'm just giving you 6, but there's so many out there we could talk about. The second one was attorney David Castles. He was charged with felony in South Florida. He was caught smuggling cocaine and charged with trafficking cocaine, delivery of cocaine, and introduction of contraband into the jail. Okay, so now we're talking about searches of attorneys coming in to the jail. How far can a search go? What do we do? Yes, they go through the metal detector. They can go through, they can get wanded with a wand. How far can we go and have a legal search on attorneys coming into the jails? This is something that should be looked into because more and more we're catching attorneys smuggling drugs into the jails. And these are just examples here. Dana Tapper. Now, she was a University of Virginia law student, and 5 years before being caught arrested for providing an inmate with a cell phone and drugs. She was on the Ellen DeGeneres show, and she received $20,000 from Ellen DeGeneres for her college fund to help her get through law school. And 5 years later, she's arrested bringing an inmate a cell phone and drugs. What causes this type of behavior? You know, it happens within the prison with teachers, librarians, correction officer staff. Now, an assistant warden or an associate warden up in Nebraska was just caught yesterday having relations with an inmate, and attorneys having relations with their clients. So when we look at these men that are 56 and 70 and 60 going in there having sex with their inmate client, well, I think that's just a sicko pervert taking advantage, using their position of power and authority to gain a favor, and they should be charged criminally and put in jail. What happens to some of these young folks, though, these young attorneys that have the whole future ahead of them, and they bring a cell phone and drugs to an inmate? How do you get that manipulated? What causes you to go to see an inmate who's your client and end up bringing them illegal things into the jail that get you arrested, get you barred as an attorney? Low self-esteem, lack of street knowledge, lack of knowledge of inmate manipulation, all things that can factor in, but no excuse. You know what's right, you know what's wrong. Good God, you're an attorney that went through law school, passed your bar exam. You know what's right and wrong. That's why you're an attorney. That's why you're there to defend these people, to see if they're innocent, to get them off of the charges. If they're not innocent, to try to get the charges lowered, at least, doing your job. But what is going on? How do you not know right from wrong? It's a very interesting study. I'm not a psychologist, but it really gets you to thinking what is going on with these attorneys. Another defense attorney, his name was Giedelman, was charged with sneaking legal paperwork laced with K2, a synthetic cannabinoid, into the Allegheny County Jail in Pittsburgh. Now, here's something we need to talk about. In the courtroom with the detention deputies at the jail, when these attorneys bring paperwork for the inmates, we don't need to just hand it directly to the inmates. Inmates should not be given any legal paperwork at the courthouse. You should have the attorneys and direct them to go to the jail and go through the proper procedure of the agency. Follow the agency's policy and procedure on how inmates get their legal mail. Lots of times the attorney will say, well, hey, it'll save me a trip to the jail. I'm right here at the courthouse. Let me just hand the inmate this file. They'll want to hand them notebooks just like this through the bar. Tell them no. You cannot allow them to do that. Why? I just gave you one big reason. This attorney was lacing papers with synthetic drugs, cannabinoids, K2. We can't do that. We can't take a chance. And then hopefully your jail has a system for all legal mail that is working. Soaked papers could be hard to detect, so we need to train in that area. We need to have something in place to check these legal documents for drugs, and we're allowed to do that, folks. For those of you say we can't, oh no, that's legal mail. You can't touch it. Well, we can. We can go through it in front of the inmate, page by page. We're not reading it. And open each page. I don't care if it's 300 pages long. Shake it, check it, look at it, and then hand it to the inmate. Now, we need some kind of drug detection device in place, I would think, like an Icon scan machine that we used on drug interdictions when I worked in the prison, where you would scan the hands of visitors coming in and staff members coming into the prison to see if they've been in contact with any drugs. Does not mean they're guilty, does not mean they have drugs. You could have stopped and got a coffee at the 7-Eleven on the way to the jail or prison, and the money you touched was drug money. But it is a good indicator of what we should do next. Search the visitor's car, call a K-9 unit, or have a K-9 unit on standby during these drug interdictions. Same thing here. Why don't we have something to scan over these legal papers coming in to see if it's got any type of drug indication that shows up? I mean, it's a tough situation all the way around. Another attorney, Frank Kirk, 70 years old, had sex repeatedly with a female inmate inside an Oklahoma County jail during his attorney-client meetings. He told the inmate, since she did not have any money to pay for her attorney fees, she could work it off in sex. Well, isn't he a nice guy? 70 years old, decided, you know what, don't worry about the attorney fees. I'm sure there's something we can do. You know, kind of reminds me of that Forrest Gump movie when when Forrest's mother was trying to get him into a regular school. And she looked at the principal and said, there must be something we can do, because he didn't quite meet the requirements to get into the regular school. If you saw the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And here's this attorney using that same line. There must be something we can do. You know, that's just some dirty stuff right there. Nasty, dirty stuff. The last one I'm going to talk about is a former public defender shown here, Teresa Olson, accused of having sex with an inmate who was a triple murderer over in Kings County, Washington, King County Jail, Washington. Of course, I said former public defender. She was also known as the fast dresser. They nicknamed her as the fast dresser. She said, well, it was a hug that just went bad. That was the answer. Well, let me tell you something. That's another thing I want to talk about. Men or women, but the women are going to get mad at me here probably. But listen, when you're a public defender, and I've seen it, and I just don't understand it. Why do you wear short dresses, short skirts that are tight? You're in the courtroom, and there's inmates lined up in the courtroom that are your clients, and you're walking up and down the aisle talking to your inmate client right here, okay, like this, with your leg like this, talking to him, bending over. Well, heck, your client sees your breasts, because I'm a bailiff in the courtroom, I can see them, and they see your legs, and they see your thighs. Come on. Get real. Why are you dressing like that? You're an attorney, public defender. Stop dressing like that. Stop being a fast dresser. No, I'm not accusing you of being a Teresa Olson, the fast dresser here in this picture. I'm not accusing you of that. You might be the most decent person in the world and would never, ever think of having a relationship with an inmate. But what's the purpose of dressing like that in the courtroom or when you go to the jail? To have your attorney-client meeting with the inmates? What's the purpose of dressing like that? Sure, they're not supposed to touch. Sure, they shouldn't look. Well, good God, but what are you doing? You're putting it right out there in front of these inmates. You think they're not going to do something? And then some of them wonder why the inmate grabbed them or touched them or tried to hold them. It's just unbelievable to me. And I don't know if you think you're going to impress the judge. I have seen judges tell the public defenders, you need to leave, go get some clothes on. And they'll go get a sweater from up in the public defender's office and put it on and come back to court. Some judges won't say anything, but it's just like, who are you trying to impress? The inmates? You're trying to get the judge to give your client a lighter sentence? It's just ridiculous if you ask me. Call me old school, but call me safety and security in the courtrooms and the jails all day long. All right, please put your thoughts down here on the bottom and please subscribe to my channel. Thank you very much. Be safe and watch those attorneys. I'm sorry, attorneys. Got to do our job. Thank you, Gary York, True Prison Stories.